Hey guys, welcome back to the AP Sports Podcast with myself, Chris and Callum.
Hello.
This is our second recorded video again.
Of the day?
The day. I have just put a jumper on. It's not like, Callum's wearing the same clothes on a different day.
Never know. But no, definitely the same day. As we said, we do a couple.
Do a couple.
Couple at a time. Keeps the schedule free as such.
Exactly.
But what's this one about then, Chris?
So, crazy. It's been a year doing our podcast, which you heard on the last episode. But we actually did our first public speaking gig, as I've titled it.
Yeah.
Like a proper, there's a group of people, not just like 5 people and in front of us, as in like a proper, I'd say it was like,
I'd say 50, about 40, 50 people.
yeah, let's go 50 students. Let's go 50.
40, 50 students. Yeah, we always push the numbers.
We always push the numbers.
Yeah, and that was obviously back in our old stomping ground of Bournemouth Uni.
Yeah.
Look, this has been a year in the making. We've been asking them to go back for probably after about the sixth month of probably doing the podcast. It was like, right, we want to go back. We want to try and sort of a bit of self-publication. So
yeah, there was two reasons. It was part self-publication and also I think this is a lot of value in here.
Yeah.
You should be giving this to students.
And we had to tackle the whole public speaking. Now that's an interesting one because some people love it, some people thrive in it, some people are good once they get going, and some people are absolutely terrified of standing up in front of family, let alone friends, let alone 40 to 50 final year students at Bournemouth.
Yeah,
and
which are already judging you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
we
did, when if you've been to uni or, even sixth form, school, when people come in to give that motivational talk or, an area of interest or a specialism, you're always sort of like, okay, here we go. This will be.
And the computer opens and let's just watch something on TV.
The phone comes out or daydream and just think that this will go by quicker.
But the whole thing, we want to go back to Bournemouth Uni. It was like a year struggle of making it happen. Not necessarily from logistically from our side, it was more like what the uni
we were ready to go. There was a couple of trains at uni at the top and people coming in and out and I think the main thing was from them early on was, are they serious about what they're trying to do?
Yeah.
I think that was the thing we were maybe telling ourselves from their point of view was, are they just going to do it and then after 6 months they'll knock it on the head? And then when it got to about 10 months of doing it, we were like, look, we're more than happy to come in. And we were meant to come in I think it was November initially.
Yeah, then it got
cancelled what they were looking to do. So right, no. And then it was we were lucky enough to be invited back to the first lecture back of the new module.
Strategic management.
Yeah.
What a module.
It was on our old course as well. So it was definitely coming home. And it was an interesting one. I think, I don't think the lecturer knew how serious we were. We had the whole PowerPoint presentation. It was thought out, everything. We had sort of cues on who to speak, when to speak, and do we jump in, and obviously how it all sort of played out. It was, I thought it went really, really well.
I know. And big shout out to Ian Jones, is a lecturer we had, who we were chatting to for a while back and forth about we talked to a few lecturers and some it just died out. They didn't really want to continue talking about it with us. And which is fine. Completely get that. That's part of life. Everyone, if they want to reject it, fine. I don't mind that. But we were very big on no, it's not an answer here. Let's just keep pushing through.
Yeah.
And Ian was great. Ian went back and forth. Loved the idea. He said, I think it's going to really help. So big thank you for him in inviting us onto his first module, first lecture of that module. It was really good.
The premise of the strategic management unit was very much about long-term thinking. That could be from a personal development or to a business and how, what is strategic management and, what is the idea of it in relation to all facets of life. And we were like, right, okay, well, it can be, this talk, especially from my point of view, is very much, if you're at uni, you've done your course, but you haven't done much outside it when it comes to applying for jobs, what are you going to talk about? What other things have you done apart from at your course, at your uni? Have you done your internships? Have you done have you done extra course? Have you learned a new skill? Have you learned how to code or learned a language or anything like that, really? And it was very much sort of, I remember being in final year myself And, I had part-time jobs, which, is what I would imagine everyone should do at uni, have a part-time job, because, again, one, money, and two, it's something to talk about in an interview.
Yeah.
And it was very much sort of being like, okay, I remember being in that situation going, I don't have a lot to really talk about. So when you came to me about doing the podcast, again, it was actually, I can talk about that I'm doing X, Y, Z alongside of my studies or alongside a full-time job. So that was the thing for me. So it was very much trying to get the students to think more long-term, and sometimes give them a little bit of a push if they needed it. Some of them were great and already had their ideas and knew exactly what they wanted to do. But, it was very much kicked off, and you started it off by going, so who actually knows what they want to do? And 90% didn't know. I mean, there was initially there was no response, as every lecture is. It was like trying to get them to engage was a little bit of a push, trying to pull teeth a little bit. But then you ask the question again, and we're like, I'm not leaving till someone made.
The best thing about it is because it was only 18 months ago we were at uni. It's like we get it. And the point of the whole lecture, the point of our talk was basically to introduce who we are a little bit, in an interesting way, who we are, and be very straight up about it. Talk about how hard life uni was, what they could do. I banged on a lot about LinkedIn and how it helps us and myself a lot, and why they should use it. And then talk about what this podcast is and how we can help. And then we had some questions. But that was great. Like we knew what we were talking about. Like we got it down to a T.
Yeah.
However, I knew that the delivery of it, and you actually said this as well, the delivery of it is so important because they know what, like, it's students to be like, oh yeah, fine, here we go.
Yeah.
Talk coming through. It's going to be like a bit of a chatter. The first line I said, I think the first line I said was, great to be here, whatever. I know what you guys are thinking. Public speaking. These two guests have come in.
Yeah.
Who are they? You're probably thinking, I know exactly what you're doing. The guys at the back have probably got their computer out doing horse racing betting. And there was like a giggle of a laugh.
We actually did.
Because we did. Like, I remember with James Nash and Cam and Lynch, like, in the back. And actually, you were there.
Yeah, it was the same.
We were winning on Cheltenham, I think.
It was around February. It was around Cheltenham Festival time, and we had a guest lecturer come in, and we tuned off straight away, and we opened the laptop out, and it was like, right, what horse you betting on? It was all and then I think one of us actually won.
Yeah,
sort of celebrated,
stood up, and was like, oh no, oh god, yeah,
did that. So we addressed that straight away, but he got a laugh, try and get their attention, and then it was like, right, how are we going to deliver this? So I was the fortunate one to be by the computer. We didn't have a clicker, so we had to manually go from slide to slide. But Chris decided to be up and down the stairs in between the stones, like a ball of energy that he is. And it was like very much chalk and cheese. But it was good though, and I really enjoyed it. I thought I've never been one to shy away from public speaking. I think it's, I think I got to psych myself up for it. But once you get going, it's very, very easy just to. As long as you know what you're talking about, of course. Yeah. But, if you've got a plan on how you execute it, then it's very much just crack on with it. And just make sure that I don't mumble, and that's my chronic flaw, and not speaking so quietly. But it was one of them that, once we got started, it just flowed, and we knew what we were talking about. And I think that was the big one, when you start seeing that lecture theatre fill up, it's like, right, it's go time. And we had a bit of technical difficulties at the start, and it was like
everything.
As always, technology is great, but it will mess up at some point. And it was messing up, and it was like, right, are we just gonna have to do this sort of, off the cuff then, without anything can happen?
Which I think would be fine.
Would have been fine, but it was good to have it. Eventually, all got sorted. It was great, and it's very much sort of looking ahead, and you've got 80 to 100 eyes just looking at you, going, go on then.
Yeah, but for me, I see it as like, it's show, like, go on then. Like,
it's a challenge.
For me, you're looking at me now, like, I've got your attention. Well, I've got it probably for an hour, about 5 minutes. And if you're going to decide to clock off, or you're staying or with me here.
Yeah.
So I was very big on, like, I'm at the start, just be like, that's why I made that joke at the start.
Yeah.
And some computers sort of went down a bit, and they looked that up, because I was like, okay, right, that's got a minute.
Got some of their attention.
And there was a laugh, and there was a few things, because that's what I wanted, because I knew that 5 minutes is, like, crucial.
Yeah.
And, like, it's still about me not standing still. I never liked it when a public speaker just stood there and, like, talked. like if it was two of them, or I liked having movement. I'm very on visually being like, I just can't stop moving. I have to hand.
Yeah, and I think it was good that it was two of us. It wasn't
Yeah.
solely focused on one, because when like on one person, there's only so long you can stare at people or really engage with them. But because we kept going backward and forward, similar to this, really,
Yeah.
it was it flowed really well, which meant that everyone had difference of opinion, and people weren't just staring ahead. They were looking at Chris, then looking at me, then looking back at Chris, and it was like trying to keep the engagement going all the time, which was fun. And the talk only lasted 45 minutes or so, because we had technical difficulties and leaving the lecture and all those types of things. It was when you're waiting around, it can be quite sort of daunting, but then, as I said, once it's there, and before you know it, it flew by.
But like, just
I was clock watching, trying to be like, Chris, you need to shut up now, come on.
About LinkedIn, I was like,
still banging that LinkedIn drum.
Like, what we just very vaguely about the bit about life hard at uni, like we were so honest, and we didn't want it to be a very fluffy, like, oh yeah, life after uni is great, like it's all sorted out. Like, we went really hard but in depth and say, like,
realistic.
Yeah, it was a realistic talk. We didn't want to have didn't have this like fake kind of talk about what it's like, which maybe the uni might wanted. I don't know, but it was a really honest chat, and I think the reception was great during it. Like, I did pick out a few people, like Callum said. I did ask people, like, what do you guys want to do? Like, anyone here actually want to do what?
And some people had a plan, and that was great,
which is really interesting. A lot of people said nothing and looked at me, and then I asked the question, like, come on, surely someone knows. And then
there was one that you picked out, and they were like, oh, I'm going to be a project manager. It's like, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And they're like, well, why do you want to be a project manager? Why do you want to go down that path? And they were like, oh, I did it for an internship, and, you're sort of being pushed into that direction because that was the only experience that you knew.
Well, like, love, when I kept asking the question about it, it was like, she said, oh, yes, I did it for an internship, so I want to do it again. And I was like, right. And like, you sure you want to do it? She's like, yeah. And like, that was it. I was like,
and you could tell the sort of
didn't want to do it.
The hesitation in the voice. It started to creep in more and more the more we dug into it. And then they came after the lecture finished. They came and obviously spoke to us and were like, I really don't want to get project management. And it was like, okay, great. So just be honest with it. It was something that you've done and then you've got experience in, but you don't actually want to go and follow through with, which is the whole idea was, find out what you want, or how are you going to get to where you want to get to. And it started, the cogs really started to sort of move, and it was interesting.
Some people had plans. Some people had their own plans.
Well, how many would you say didn't have an idea?
I think it's tough, because whether people in lecture just didn't want to talk.
Yeah.
A lot of... No, hang on. I'm saying this right. People... I don't have a problem if people don't know what they don't want to do. Like, they have no idea what they want to do. I feel like you should have an idea a little bit. If you're going to uni to sport management, you're kind of like, right, I want to do something in sport, but what is it roughly?
You don't want it to be a stopgap for 3 years and then panic again, because, you panicked at 18 and were like, right, I need to go. But it was very much sort of, I'd say 80 to 90% of people really didn't know what they wanted to do, which is, again, fine. That was the whole idea of this.
Yeah, if you like disagree with that, like, fair enough, I get that, but like, I do think you should have a rough idea, at least, especially when you're investing that much money into yourself. Like, you got to have an idea roughly.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people didn't really know, which is fine, but I think us talking about how hard life is at uni afterwards, where the competition bit was the key thing. I think when you went in saying, like, you're sitting next to people who are your mates, but like, you aren't applying for the same jobs. Like, you'll be
what makes
same
it
stuff.
I mean, look, I work in recruitment, and I speak to a variety of different people every day, and some of them are fresh graduates. And it's sort of like, well, what makes you so special? Now, you might be special in your family's eyes and your friends' eyes, but when it comes to a CV or an application or an interview, what is it that makes you special? When people start to really think that, oh, okay, Chris is my friend, but at the moment on paper we've got the same everything. So what's actually going to be the difference? And then it was like, right, I'm going to do an internship, or I'm going to learn that skill. I'm going to make sure that if I know what I'm going to go into, I'm going to learn stuff that makes me the best person for that role.
And we have that, and yet we have this. What we do is feeding that.
Yeah, and again,
that's why we're doing it.
It is very much sort of for your benefits. It's as we said before, it's a snapshot or a blurb on the back of a book of, what is it that people do, and if you like what they do, then go down that route, and they're going to give you insight and specific stuff to learn, or specific skills to learn to excel in that role. And it was a really interesting talk, and it was great speaking to people after as well.
And then afterwards, we did a bit on LinkedIn, which is I was always going to be a bit I needed to talk about on there,
because it is so pivotal.
Yeah,
and even if you don't really believe in it, people in my world of work use it religiously to find the right candidates and find the right people. So
different people are using it, so why wouldn't you use it?
if you want to get hired into those roles, you can put open for work and what type of roles and all that type of thing, and it makes them come to you. Now, they're not always going to have the best roles, but at least that's an avenue for you to explore and let them come to you, instead of you having to spend hours in your evening trying to find what companies are hiring and where and how and all that type of thing. But again, it's just trying to get those cogs working.
100%.
It was really interesting, because obviously I remember being there, and no, that don't matter.
Well, I asked the question. I said at the start, like, does anyone know this platform? I just had a massive logo of LinkedIn, just like a massive one.
It's just the simple.
Yeah, I just went, do you know what this is? Everyone, to be fair, actually was a good thing. Said yes, they do. They all nodded. A lot of them.
Then the next question was,
and then I asked, then, is anyone using it? And you had like a couple of people, like.
And then what are you using it for?
Yeah, and then then I asked. Then I asked, if you're not using it, why are you not using it? And then there was silence, which I was expecting, and I was like, no, come on, why are you not using it? And then some guy went, oh, it's too professional.
Yeah,
fair enough, get that. Someone says too fake, which like, okay.
Again, yeah,
which is like, that's like the way like everyone's been told to use it, but now it's changing, obviously. I'm not going to ramble on about it now, because I could be here for another hour.
Well, there's about 3 episodes on it in every
episode. I've done enough rambling, but I'll still ramble on other episodes about it.
LinkedIn over it.
Exactly. That's my nickname at work.
Sponsored.
My nickname at work,
Mr. LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's quite hilarious and tragic.
It's true though, so
it's part of it.
It's true.
Side note on that, Eddie, my boss Eddie now we have 2 versions of Eddie. There's LinkedIn Eddie.
Oh yeah, I've seen.
There's normal Eddie.
I've seen.
And LinkedIn Eddie is taking over normal Eddie. It's quite funny. So like,
it's funny. He's cottoned on to it.
Yeah, you basically need a LinkedIn version of yourself, and like everything will change.
Well, LinkedIn, and I think again is an extension of you, but also it's a more up to date CV.
Yeah,
it's a portfolio of your activities. If you've learned something, then go do it. If you've been somewhere and had a great time and an experience, then put it on there, and people can scroll back through your posts and just be like, oh, you're commenting loads, or you're doing X, Y, Z. I'm doing more on it. And before it was very much just that I need it for my job, and now it's actually I need it for myself. So it's
we could ramble on. We could ramble on. We're not going to, because then this episode's just basically just gone.
It's gone again.
But yeah, that was a big chat on that, and I think it's interesting. People are asking about like. We explained how I used it and like the effects and results I've had for it. Like, saying I got like 3,000 views on a post, and I was like, can you imagine if one of those people would offer you a job? Theoretically, like that's a very extreme like scenario.
Yeah.
But like, and then you could see people going, oh yeah, and I was like, and I explained this story which I had with my grandparents when I went to visit them. I said, I don't understand. Like, people complain they can't get a job. And I said to my granddad, I was like, when my dad was younger, how did he get a job? And it was like, he went to the newspaper every day and you check what's on the newspaper, like whatever's on the newspaper, that highlight you saw.
Call the number.
Yeah, there's no like, it's on the newspaper, but oh yeah, Indeed's around the corner. Yeah. There is no Indeed. So then you get the newspaper, you check through it, you apply to those jobs, you write a handwritten letter, which basically is now non-existent. No. And then you send it off and you wait. And if you really wanted to do a follow-up, you could send another letter, but like that takes time while you're also applying other jobs. And I said, and you told me that process. I was like, right. And I said, people complain now when that you can literally go on LinkedIn and you could search a CEO of any other company or whatever. And I was telling these people in the lecture, and you could see people going, oh yeah.
Now you've got a whole platform which advertises jobs, so you can speak to the person hiring, all of that stuff. So again, it was just trying to get him to really think.
But we could see it. Like, you could see people going, oh yeah, you're right. Like,
and then how many connection requests did you get after?
Yeah, so during it, I think like you said, saying like, I'm an example. Like, for example, like the Gold Studios we're growing and we're hiring. So like, if someone who wanted to work at what I do, you could potentially message me, whatever. You never know. I might give you an internship. That is a joke. Like, it generally could happen. And then suddenly, afterwards, the chat, after meeting some people we'll talk about later, but then I was just getting a request being like, connection. I was like, fine, I don't mind.
It was quite funny actually, because it was actually some of the ones that were in the big groups, and I'm just going to say this now, big groups of lads, and didn't want to engage in them.
That's true, actually.
Were the ones that actually connected with, or wanted to have an extra follow-up chat, but without the eyes of their friends seeing. So again, it was that sort of high school mentality, as we've said before.
Should you don't in high school? No, I don't. Keep going there.
And it was like, trying to not be seen to be the nerd or want to do well in front of everyone. And then afterwards it was like, no, please, like, I actually really want to speak to you about this, or I really want to connect for future opportunities, or, just see what you guys are doing in a bit more detail. And it was very much, I didn't want to do it in front of my friends type.
Which is interesting. I find that
still at the grand old age of 18, 19, 20, 21.
Yeah.
It's still so prevalent. But it was just so interesting.
But I think that was great. I think our goal was to have people thinking. That's all it was.
Yeah, of course.
We weren't expecting people to be like, oh yeah, you're 100% right. It was just to go, actually, maybe you're right. There's something there. And
so with, I want to go completely off now. So with the talk, what did you learn about public speaking?
Great question. You didn't go through this with me. What did I learn? I learned that I enjoy it. By far, like a bit too much. I was kind of like, I want to do it again.
You did seem in your element.
Yeah. But what's funny about that is when I was because I'm massively dyslexic, when I was a kid, when we used to do presentations and scripts.
Yeah.
You can't do. I basically hated any public speaking, because I basically would just start sweating, couldn't read, go red, whatever. So like
brain freeze, everything.
So yeah. So like if I was thinking about doing when we were going before we were doing it, I kept part of me was like, remember when you used to hate it?
Yeah.
So they had a part of me going like, I may not like this, but I actually loved it. Like the fact that it was just off the cuff a little bit. We understand what we were talking about, but it wasn't scripted.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like, it's very different if you're doing a speech.
Yeah.
As such,
like Obama doing or Donald Trump doing.
Yeah, like if you're doing
a
really formal speech and you've got some form of script, and it's how you get from the piece of paper in front of you to out there. Whereas if we're doing it like what we did, it was you sort of know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're an SME in what you're talking about because it's you.
Yeah.
So if you don't know you are pretty screwed. And then it was like, right, all I've got to do is try and make sure that it's in a coherent way.
Yeah. But what else I learned? I do speak. I'm very critical of myself. I realised I spoke quite fast, which I do anyway, but that's something I kind of work on trying to do.
Yeah.
I thought I was in all honesty, I thought I was great. The fact that I was walking around, and I think I made myself feel comfortable, which I think got across to them, which then made them buy into me and us together, which I think was good.
How did you feel presenting to 18 to 22-year-olds?
There is a sense in the air that, especially I look like I look like I could still be at uni, let's be very honest. Baby face. Like, Callum looks a bit older than me.
I look about 30.
You have to say. So I felt a bit of like I felt like there could be a little bit of a, right, here we go, who are these guys?
Yeah.
But I kind of, as I said earlier, I kind of was like, no, in these 5 minutes, I will make you listen to me. Like, I will make sure that you will listen to me and make it interesting.
Yeah.
And I think I did win them over, and I enjoyed that process of it, which is really good. And yeah, there's little things like, I watch a guy on TikTok and YouTube called, what's his name? I think Vin something. He's a Vietnamese Australian guy who does talks about communication.
Nice.
Teaches how you should communicate, how your voice is very important, how your actions and body language are. Yeah, and it's really good if you want to do even just communicating in work better. And for me, for talent, I'm trying to communicate as a better person and make it more clear, and my tone of voice and all these things are very vital. And I listened to loads of his bits, and I realized some things that I do. So in that talk, I tried to do those better. And I feel like I did. But there's 100% things that I would improve.
How was it? Because when we do this, well, now we've only just started in the video, but when we do the podcast and we have chance to stop, re-record, re-edit. You don't get that.
No, you don't.
So it's like, how it's sort of the fear of messing up, but then you sort of
Did you have that?
I wouldn't say it was a fear. It was more that I was like, oh, I actually, you can't sort of take that back now. So it's like trying to, when I'm thinking and when I'm saying certain things, it's like, don't say that, or try not to swear, or if you do swear, don't make it so obvious.
Make it a bit of a jokey thing.
Yeah, it's like, what anything I could say in theory could also land me in some trouble as well, because I can't take that back. But then also it's sort of like, well, what am I really realistically going to say? It could be something off the cuff that you just throw out there as a filler. And then people are like, oh, actually.
So this is why this is his Vin guy, because I actually did in the talk, I think before we talked about LinkedIn, I was like talking, and like, when you start talking, you're losing your train of thought.
Yeah.
Or you're like, lost it, but I'm talking, I don't know what's going on.
And everything's still staring.
And I remember going like, I was like, actually, and I did the old, actually, who hasn't used it? Like, actually, who doesn't use it? Like so that's a technique that he does that I listened to like a day before.
Was it like a question?
Yeah, it's a way of what's it called? It's a way of hiding your loss of train of thought and addressing the attention to a different thing. And then when I asked the question, then I was thinking, okay, this is where I am, and then it got back to it. So I used that for example, so which I'm glad. So like, I was glad I used something like that, and I learned from that. And I'm like, okay, right, I'm going to definitely use that again, or learn more from this Vin guy, tag him, whatever his name is. But like, I loved it. I thought it was really good fun. Did you like it? Did you enjoy it? Is there anything that you're like, unsure about?
I wish I moved around a little bit more, but I think that was limited because we didn't have the clicker.
We needed a clicker.
Be all over the place.
I would have a laser pointer and everything.
Yeah, we did. You wanted the whole works, but university budget.
Yeah.
No, I enjoyed it. I think, as I said before, I don't find it that difficult. I think for me, it's more how loud I can be, try not to mumble. I'm a chronic mumbler.
I think you're that well.
At work, they always take the mick.
I've probably listened to your voice a lot.
Yeah, you edit it. It's probably ingrained in your head for the rest of your life. And it was just, I think it's, once you get going, it's fine. And I think that's the thing that I'd probably say to most people is it can be daunting. But once you're there and you've got a rough idea of what you're trying to say, it does just seem to fall after each other. And then when you get onto a roll, it's absolutely fine. People always say, stare at something at the back of the room or try and look at as many eyes as possible. I wouldn't recommend the second one because if someone pulls a face, it can throw you off. But
that's the one thing I would want to do better at, actually, was apparently when you do public speaking, if you're talking to loads of people and you're moving too much eye contact, it makes you look a bit shifty.
Yeah.
So I did that a little bit. I realised that you need to be like a few seconds there, like 5 seconds there.
I think I picked like 4 people to do the same that, and it was like front left, middle, back right, back left, and it was like just look at the same 4 people. Doesn't matter if they're engaged or not.
Yeah. And
just talk at them specifically, and you'll get to the rest of the people. But obviously, you just make sure you pick the people that you
want. Yeah.
And they're not like asleep or busy or. And then also when you were speaking, obviously some people will check the phone or will do something, might move some hair, might cough, and it's like try not to be thrown off by that.
Yeah.
It's normal. Like you're not going to sit in a room for an hour and no one's going to cough. Like someone will clear their throat. But no, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was quite easy, especially the topic we were talking about. But very easy, just
great first one to do.
It was great first one. Back at place we know well, lecture hall we've been in, area that we know, lecturer who believed in us as well. I was engaged with the content we were going to be talking about, and I think it just went really, really smoothly.
Yeah, definitely.
For what it was and what it.
And do you know what? Actually, I put a LinkedIn post about saying it was our first talk, and like the engagement I got, I was really I wasn't expecting it to do that well, but a lot of people were very supportive about it, and I had a lot of people asking about it. Even work, when I was doing emails, people saying, I saw this and you did the first one. And I was really surprised. Back to that thing where people never say they're listening or see, but they all don't say they're seeing, but they are. And like, to anyone who did like it, I really appreciate it for the kind words from me and Callum, because some people might say it's not very cool going back to your old uni or whatever, but like I think it's quite a cool thing to do, and a lot of people took that as well, so I really appreciate on that front.
Well, I think if at some point in most careers, you're going to have to stand up in front of a room. And it'll either be people you work with, and it could be as simple as what we do as an end of week wrap up, right? And that's one person from each team will say how the team's done, and what's been good, what's been, bad, or, what's worked really well. And, that's in our office, there's like 40 people, right? So at some point, you're going to have to.
Basically what we did.
Yeah.
Really it's about addressing the room.
Yeah, and you're going to know what you're going to be talking about because you've done that week, right? So it's like, how am I going to make sure it comes out in the best way? And people throw jokes, or some people are like, I am not doing that. It's like, well, you are, so get on with it. And that's what will happen either in your job or at some point you will stand in front of a room and have to give some form of public presentation.
And we threw ourselves in the deep end by doing our
first one straight back at uni. First lecture straight after Christmas.
Yeah, you got to throw yourself in the deep end, obviously.
And I think, again, it's another skill. So, you might find that you hate it, but you've done it and you can cope with it. Or you might be like you, where you absolutely thrive.
Invite me back again. I'm well over it. Which we'll talk about later, actually. We'll talk about that in a bit. But, so, moving on, I want to talk about after we did the talk, which the rest of the talk went really great after the whole LinkedIn thing. It was brilliant. Kept going about what we do, talked about the podcast. People seem to see it.
Well, the viewers have gone up and followers
have gone up. I appreciate it. It means a lot.
We really do.
And after we did some, we were running out of time actually, so we didn't do any questions. But it's a classic. You can stay behind and chat, and you ask that thing, and you're like, well, here we go. No, is anyone going to stay behind?
I generally wasn't expecting ones to actually stay behind.
I was not expecting anyone.
It was interesting because you had the big groups of either lads or girls, and they just left. And I was like, all right, cool. So, 50% have just gone. And then it was 8 or 9 trickled down the stairs. And it was right, trying to grab us at the front, and we had to leave the room. And then we're in sort of the lobby bit outside the lecture halls. And we were there for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Which was really, really interesting. The lecturer was there smiling, giggling, loving it because
Ian was loving is the fact that this is what you guys are doing is working. And the fact that students are actually there's a value here.
No, there was a guy that wanted to be in recruitment. It's picking my brain. People that wanted to learn was talent management. Yeah. So he was a guy that wanted to do the sort of Camp America and recruitment piece together. So sort of trying to pick brains. What do you do? How do you do it?
Yeah.
And obviously we had the project management person as well that came.
She was very interesting because we obviously picked her out in the lecture, but I knew in the lecture she didn't want to do what she wanted to do. She said she wanted to do, and the fact that I felt a lot of felt so great when she said, do you know what, I actually don't want to do that, because I felt like we kind of sort of poked the kind of monkey to say do you want to do it, you sure? And actually it went,
it's like you asked 3 times and by the third one everyone goes, are you all right? And then you're like, yeah, and then you're like, no, are you actually okay? Do you want to do it? And they're like, yeah, and then you ask them again, it's right, it's the 3 ask rule type thing, whereas people will truly tell you after the third one if they're fully in. Or what
was she saying to you? She's saying that there was another team that she was interested in, where her placement was in sales or something.
So she worked very closely with a different team, and it's I really want to get involved in that one. How do I do it? And it was well, use your network and use everything. And it was an interesting sort of conversation. Again, it sort of demystified everything. And was look, it's as simple as just writing a message. And people get so caught up on the whole. How do I approach someone that I don't know? But it's whenever you ever sent a DM before. I'm not saying on a Friday night or anything like that, but in terms of
or drop a text is there.
But the concept is usually you have no fear in dropping a message to your mate. Now all you do is make it slightly more professional. Make sure your grammar's great and all that type of thing. But after that, you're sending a message. And, if they respond, great. If they don't respond, you haven't lost anything. And there could be. The end goal is that dream job or that dream contract or something like that. So it was just sort of a bit of a reality check for a couple of people.
What was great with her is that she said, I want to maybe do something in sales. And the fact that she stayed along, she engaged in the talk, made us feel well, listen, we know Alec. We did the European tour.
We'll put you in with whoever.
If you really want to, you could connect with him and message saying, listen, I've talked to Chris and Callum. I actually had a talk at my uni and they really mentioned to talk to you because I want to do what you do. She might have done already, I don't know. But you could do that. Or if you chase up with us, we can maybe put you in contact. If we, depending on the time.
There's been everyone that came on our podcast has said, I'm more than happy to take questions, more than happy to have a chat with people, because they're in a similar boat, and a lot of them got their roles that they're doing from doing the same thing. So, we're giving back, giving you that insight, giving you potentially contacts in the industry already to be like, look, I listened to this, that, and the other, spoke to Chris Cal.
But the fact that she stayed behind and asked, like, it'd be very different if you just messaged after being like, oh, thanks for the chat, thanks for the clean or whatever. Yeah. Like, the fact she stayed behind and wanted to get to know, she kind of, as I say, shoot her shot. Like, she gave a shot, and it could lead to something, it may not. But, like, at least you try. Do, like, those 10, 20 times, whatever it is, it's going to lead to something.
Yeah, definitely.
So it was great to meet her. She was great. She was asking those questions.
Yeah, really good.
I had some people asking me, I had one sweet person who did trampoline for GB or something.
Nice.
And she was asking about sponsorship and stuff, which is great. I really appreciate she shoots a shot, like, just give it a go. And she said, like, sponsorship stuff. And I gave her some advice. Said it's a bit tough, social media presence, depends what you want to do. And one guy who wanted to do football, he wanted to be an agent. He said, why did you go from you wanted to be a football golf agent to now doing entertainment?
I got to start somewhere,
but it explained the whole process of it and my changing of thinking. But very good question. Like, no one asked that in the chat, but, like, a very valid question, and I'm glad someone asked that, because they are interested in trying to pick something. It's not like for an ego thing for us being like, ask about us, but it's the intent of where they're coming from. Like,
but I think, I've always said that if you're ever looking for a job, most people go to their friends, their network, their family.
Yeah.
We're just another extension of that, really.
Yeah.
Now, we're a little bit more accessible than maybe the massively, massively popular podcast, but the same point is we have contacts and we have people, everyone that, as I said, that we've brought on.
Could you imagine if we had a AP Sports podcast community and they're all students, like, engaged, like, actually serious about their career?
Yeah.
And basically they were in, however it would work, it would be a paid, like, network thing or whatever, and all the guests we have, you have access to them.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine? Like, that'd be great. Like, we want to be that extension community. We don't want to just be like some guys that ramble on about you should be doing this or listen to this. Like, that could be an option, but, like, you already have access to us now. Those people are doing that already, which is great, and it's encouraging to see. I obviously always wish more people were doing it.
Yeah.
But I'm glad people were doing it and people were serious and trying at least. It's an important thing.
Yeah.
So that was encouraging to see afterwards, and then that was it, really.
So we did it in front of about 50 people.
Yeah.
50 students.
Yeah.
How would you think it'd be different doing it in front of people slightly older and bigger? In terms of, if it was a couple hundred, would you feel a lot more daunting?
I need a bigger stage.
Yeah,
I need a huge stage. I'll be running laps.
I need steps, mate.
I need steps. I'm about to say, if I had a Fitbit or like an Apple.
So do you think for public speaking for you that no matter how big the audience is, you can just do it?
I think.
Or do you think there'll be a point you'll go, that's a lot of people?
I think I'll always say it's a lot of people.
But then
back in, like,
once you're there.
But then if they introduced me on or whatever, it was like, just crack on. I think I just go into an athlete, just go.
And I mean, obviously Bournemouth was familiar, if someone came from, I don't know, Newcastle Uni, Bristol Uni, Southampton Uni, London, anything like that.
I think that would be easier because it's not our uni. Like, okay. So they full on have no idea who you are.
Yeah.
Ian knew obviously who we are.
Yeah.
You never know. Ian might have mentioned us before, like if he didn't actually, but he could have mentioned us before, man. So then there's a bit of a pressure.
We did a bit of an intro, said that obviously former sport management students went to Bournemouth Uni, been out of it for about 18 months, 2 years. So
I'd like it to be like he said all that, and then people go, "Wow, they were from the same uni as me. They're impressive. Oh my god, I want to be like that." But like when it's a different, do you know what I mean? Like that's what I kind of truly message to be. But if it's another uni, it's kind of like we're here for a chat. I'll do whatever it takes to try and win over the crowd.
Yeah,
but I'll do my best.
Yeah.
But I think I'd find it easier. But the size of the crowd, I think it's always going to feel like there's a lot of people here. Like, why are they all here for me?
Yeah, true.
Like, what's going on here? Like, something's gone wrong. Or and I'll just go into the boat, try and I think practice is important. I know we practice our talk very casually because it's a casual talk.
Yeah, I mean, look, we knew what we were saying.
Yeah,
it wasn't like it was like, oh, we need to really plan this out. But I think we had a couple WeWork type conversations, and then it was or if you know what you're going to say, go home. And, if you're not confident with public speaking, they always say do it in front of a mirror. I used to just pace around my room. I'd be cooking dinner and I'd be like going through it in my head, and then I'd be like trying to speak it. And I've got my housemates that be at home, they're like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, just going over it in my head or just saying it out loud. But yeah, doing it in your room. And I think because you like to move around, doing it in a room like a bedroom or wherever, really, lounge, wherever you are, and just moving and having the hand gestures, I think, especially with public speaking, you can't just stand there and you can't have your hands in your pockets, because then you look disinterested. It's all about that sort of active presence.
Yeah.
Not being too like hands all over the place, but like, using it for exaggeration or using it to sort of build a picture, as I'm doing now.
Yeah.
What you're actually trying to say.
Yeah.
What if someone was looking to do their first public speaking? What would you say are the 3 tips?
I think practice a lot. Yeah. Like rehearse to the point where we knew what we were talking about.
Yeah. So if technology fails and there's no prompts, screen,
that's a great point. If you're able to still do it without any presentation or any
no notes or whatever, no postcards, no nothing.
Tips. I think don't be afraid to engage with the audience. I think we were great at that.
That's key.
I think we were very good at that.
Because otherwise you might as well have it as just a podcast audio and just have play.
Yeah.
There you are.
Yeah, you want to be part of the crowd and getting them involved. What's the third one? I think just don't have your mind racing too much. I have that where I always do, even at work, I do things, but whilst doing the things, I'll think about something else.
Yeah.
Like a next task I have to do, or like that agreement I need to sign or whatever. So like when I was talking, there was times when I was thinking about what the next thing is to say, and it didn't actually mess me up that much when we were doing the tour. I actually was able to manage it, but I would say to most people, just try and know what you're talking about. Like, don't race ahead in your head before what you're saying, basically.
I think going on the practice point, you have a set time to deliver in as well.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have 3 hours to meander your way through. If you're only doing it for 20 minutes, then make sure that your talk is 20 minutes or 15 minutes with time for questions. Make sure that you've got everything you want to say in that allotted time frame, because it'd be quite easy just to turn up and get sort of lost with, the time. And I think, again, probably a constructive thing for us was we probably need to fine-tune that a little bit, because there were things that we didn't say, and things we could have said a little bit more or should have said a little bit less, or what running out. So I think, constructive for us next time. That was our first one. I think it went really, really smoothly.
Yeah.
It seemed like the students really enjoyed it. I know the lecturer enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And, I would do it again, but I think, if we were being picky, it'd be probably just to fine-tune the timing.
And I think the way we communicate, you can always improve on communication.
Yeah.
There's times when I was but I'd say things clearly like I would like to.
I think we have now, especially doing this podcast and now doing the video and doing the public speaking, that we can sort of now look at another.
Oh, we know.
Jumping in next. Or,
yeah.
As I say, it's very conversational anyway, but, we're not awkward people. But
that's through practice of doing 15 episodes or 60.
Yeah, there's still times where we talk over each other and you're louder than me and all that stuff. But, you've got clearly more important things to say.
For my height.
Oh, okay.
That's what it is.
You can't really get height sitting down on a sofa.
True, actually, yeah.
I was slouched.
Yeah, that's fair enough. But yeah, it was great, and the best thing about it is Ian, who was the lecturer, loved it.
We got introduced to
another someone else.
I can't remember the name, and I apologise for that. But we got introduced to more people, and they were like, "Look, can you come back in September to do another talk? Can you come back and maybe do a seminar or bits and pieces?" We got asked to come back and do an episode a talk on podcast and how to really get that started. And obviously we had the last episode that we did that covers that as well, and how we found it and that type of thing. But again, it's just those little, more avenues that we just keep exploring and being asked to do. That's what we want, really.
That's just one,
it's busy.
If people say that's a small opportunity, I go to talk to a lecture group, but it does open things. We didn't put pressure on ourselves. We didn't put pressure on us to be we need to make sure this is perfect because we could open this. We just thought we'll do our best. And we were both, I think, very confident, they'll like it and there's more to us to help out.
Yeah.
And there was, and they've said we want to come back. I think they want us to be back for induction day.
It's intake starting. So instead of speaking to people and students that have 6 months left, it'll be the 12 months. So probably a little bit more of a reality check, coming back after the placement year or straight from second year into final year, depending if they did a placement year or not.
And I think that will be like a good one for making them reflect on their placement.
Yeah.
Discuss how hard, like, in honesty, like, it's going to be a tough year, but if you did a placement year that was tough, like, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
And also
it's tough for different reasons. Yeah.
And then making them think about the future as well. And like, that'd be a different talk, but I think there'll be a bigger group. And I think by us doing what we did, we now know what to work on and we'll practice on that. Like, we've been invited to other things that are another opportunity, and obviously we'll do those as best as we can. And that will obviously, hopefully, if it goes well, lead on to other things.
Yeah.
And we can go to other unis and say, this is what we've done. Like, it's all a domino effect. And we know it's small things that will help. And I've personally been always very confident we've got a lot to give for this thing that we're doing. And it's just a domino effect. It's just keep going. And if it pauses one day because it's not done as well or something,
well, it's still
find a way.
It's still something to talk about, though.
Exactly.
The whole thing from start to finish, the public speaking element now is a potential avenue to go down. The video recordings, which we've started to do, and we'll do, see how they do and see how they perform. And then, obviously we've got our traditional sort of just audio as well. So, I think it's interesting. We're exploring different things, which is good, keeping it fresh.
But it was good. We wanted to do this one because we wanted to be open about how it all was. It's very easy to go like, I did public speaking event. Oh yeah, it was really great. Like, it's brilliant. It was easy. Like,
24 at the moment. How many 24-year-olds have done, massive public speaking events? Now, I'm not saying 50 people is massive, but it's a start. And, I'm not exactly mic'd up, but we can wait and see where it goes from here. But no, it was an interesting time, and it was a good thing to talk about. Again, things that you talk about in an interview if you are looking to interview as well. So I would definitely say go and do it. Throw yourself in the deep end because it will help. Going forward. And plus, everyone's very easy talking to someone that's like here, but like if you're speaking to someone that's meters away, very, very different ball game, and trying to tailor that communication, volume levels, slowing things down a little bit. It's all good skills to learn.
100%. And like the big thing I think from all of it as well is to say thank you for the support we had for a year, because we had to make sure and justify and prove that this was a serious thing. I get like, we had this where I think people didn't take us too seriously at the start and say like, you can come back to
no, because it was
a fresh thing.
We started it at the sort of end of final year and really started producing episodes in the autumn, September, October time. And it was like, right, how long can we do it for? How long are we going to be willing to do it for? Is it going to be too much effort? Is it, is it going to be, is it going to make us feel good about doing it? And, is there going to be any reward? And in terms of reward, it's not just the money side, we don't get paid for it, but it's about, can we make an impact? And do we provide value? And it's all come together recently, really over the last sort of couple months of that sort of 12-month anniversary where it sort of all clicked and actually, it is making an impact.
And like I said, like it just opens opportunity, but the opportunity was provided because people are listening, and we have proof of saying like, look, these are the numbers. People are listening, and we're getting feedback and etc. So thank you for listening. I do really appreciate it, and I do hope that there's continuous value for you guys. And if there's any feedback or anything you want us to see, like, just tell us. Like, we're there for you. And yeah, like we've got episodes coming out soon. A few other ones. So let us know what you guys are looking for. And
obviously we couldn't have done this without obviously OSR Studios. Obviously we've got to make sure
big man Ollie over there.
We get them involved as well. Obviously we'll tag them in this and other things that we do with them.
And I do hope I would like to do a few. I think it's I think this is going to help us generally as well and get some more people. And so we're good. We appreciate it. Right, I'll see you on the next one.
See you later.
Drop time.
Perfect.